And the best thing, the very best thing of all, is there's time now. There's all the time I need and all the time I want.
Hey, I'm Derek.
And I'm Noah, and you're listening to A Bite of, finally,
where we take our current favorite pop culture obsession and enjoy it one nibble at a time.
Yay, we're back.
Happy 2022.
It's been a while, guys.
It's been a while.
I told Derek just before we started recording this, I was like, why am I nervous? I feel nervous.
They're listening to us.
It's been a couple of weeks since we released an episode. I mean, we've been active on social media, so if you're not following us, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at a Bite of Pod. But side note, yes, it's been a while. I snuck it in.
Sprinkle it in. But welcome back, and I hope you're also welcoming us back. And I have to say that I am personally excited about this piece of pop culture.
Oh, yeah. This season is bonkers, and I think it fits what we're covering pretty well, but we're not covering something current.
Yes.
We're going way back, like years and years and years.
But it is our current favorite pop culture obsession.
How this happened is every New Year's, we watch the Twilight Zone marathon that comes on Sci-Fi, and we love it. I mean, if you're following us on Instagram, you probably saw us have terrifying face masks on while watching the marathon of the Twilight Zone. It's like 2 days of amazingness.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, I've been watching this marathon since I'm a kid. Like, it used to be on the local WB, which was then CW and whatever it was. But it was always every 4th of July and every New Year's.
4th of July is weird.
But then at some point, it switched to the Honeymooners. And then, like, it was also Star Trek. And then it kind of, like, fizzled out. But then Sci-Fi brought it back. So I've been watching these marathons since I'm a kid, and my dad like would tape the marathons on a VHS.
Fun.
So we would just like rewatch the episodes over and over and over again. And I wonder if that's what has to do with what are my favorite episodes, or just because those are the ones I watched over and over again as a kid.
Also, they have some of the best episodes at like 3 a.m. So
yeah, you know, someone had done the research and posted the entire schedule, and of course it's not like in like full 30-minute chunks, like it goes like at crazy times, but they put some of the most famous ones at like points where you might still be at work or when you're sleeping, so you really got to be on the ball.
Yeah. But
I'll fully admit, I have not seen every single episode.
No, there's like what, 150, 160?
156.
Yeah.
But that's why I like watching the marathon, because they kind of mix it up.
Yeah.
And they don't put all the popular ones on during prime time, so I get to see the ones that I haven't seen before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is exciting.
It's super exciting.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're doing this. We're taking a look back and just talking about something we love, because also, I mean, there's some stuff that's coming out on TV that we like, but again, we don't always want to talk about the things that we're watching or anything like that. We want to make sure it's not only enjoyable for you, but it's enjoyable for us to cover.
Right, totally.
So it's kind of, we're waiting for some other stuff to come out, and it was like, why not share this awesome tradition that we do with all of you?
Yeah, and we're taking a bit of a creative approach to these episodes.
We're not doing every episode, I swear to God, guys.
So welcome to the longest season of A Bite of ever.
I refuse.
So what we're doing is that we're taking 2 episodes and grouping them together under a single topic.
Right.
And then we'll be talking about those episodes and, you know, other paraphernalia that have to do with it. But we're kind of creating these topics and finding 2 episodes that we like that fit into it.
Yeah. And we will talk about, don't think that we're not going to talk about the 2019 Twilight Zone that Jordan Peele did, because I did group an episode with that because I had to, but we're going to be talking about all that the Twilight Zone is.
Yes.
Everything it's given us.
And you're also going to hear this, we do, a lot. And this, womp.
Probably.
Womp.
More the we do.
Yeah.
For sure.
I just love, I can't, it's so weird is that there's like only these 30-minute episodes, but as soon as that theme music comes on, I am in. I am ready.
Yeah, and you can always tell what season it is by the intro that was changed. Like what Rod Serling says, and also the visuals that are, it's like, oh, this is the first season. Oh, this is the 4th one. I don't like this intro.
There's one of them where like the pane of glass in the window breaks and you hear it. And there's also the one where there's like that floating doll with the hair.
I don't like that one because he doesn't mention what it is. He's like, sight of mind and all of that, but it's like the doll just floats by and I'm like, and of hair? Like, what?
And
what's happening?
When you see that, chills.
Ridiculous.
All right, so at the start of any new topic or obsession with a bite of, we do a little bit of deeper research.
Yeah, think of it as your episode primer.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at the series of The Twilight Zone, you can't look at the series without talking about the series creator, which is, of course, the iconic, amazing Rod Serling.
And I will fully admit that it was of 1 month ago that I realized that his name was not Rod Sterling. It was Rod Serling.
Serling. It's the Twilight Zone. I bet at one point there was a T, but then we went into the Twilight Zone.
Serling just doesn't sound like a name I've heard before. So my mind was like, that's not right. It's this one.
I also love just as the creator of the Twilight Zone, he's also in every episode of the Twilight Zone.
Absolutely.
And like you kind of can't wait for him to pop up.
Right.
It's fantastic. So born in Syracuse, New York on December 25th, 1924.
Oh.
Christmas baby.
No.
He grew up with his family in Binghamton, New York. According to his older brother, he always had a vivid imagination and never stopped talking.
Way to do your career exactly that fits you.
Exactly. Exactly. They're like, looking back, he was going to be the narrator of some sort of series.
Yeah. God.
His life took a detour when he enlisted in the military after high school. Upon returning from service, he went to Antioch College, where he majored in physical education.
Whoa, a PE teacher?
A PE teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, but that didn't last long, and he changed course, switched his major to English Lit and Drama, and began writing for the college radio show.
Okay, seems more in line.
Here we go. Now
Right.
it's beginning. Yeah. From then on, he kept writing. His biggest break came in 1955 when NBC purchased his drama Patterns. Patterns.
Sorry. Wait, is it Patterns twice or
Patterns?
That one?
No, just once.
Okay. It wasn't twice, it was 3 times.
It was thrice the Patterns. No, only one.
Okay.
And Patterns focuses on unseemly characters in the business world. So it was like very drama heavy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So not the start you would think.
Pass.
So he would continue writing and gaining notoriety. After some time, he was done writing dramas and focused his talents on the wondrous land whose boundaries are that of imagination. He wrote what was to be the pilot of The Twilight Zone, and that was called The Time Element. The script was purchased by CBS, but then was shelved. Womp womp. Later,
Okay.
it was finally produced for the Desilu Playhouse, and Desilu Playhouse is
Like-
Desi Arnaz.
Like
Yes.
Lucille Ball's
and
husband?
Lucy Ball. It was the two of them.
Oh.
So they had like this weekly show where they had just a movie or something.
I
And
didn't know this.
what's hilarious though is that like Desi Arnaz introduces it like Rod Serling.
Oh, I
Like-
love them so much, and I had no idea that
Yeah.
they did this.
Yeah, it's crazy. So it premiered on there, and it was on November 24th, 1958. So The Time Element focuses on a man named Peter Jensen, and he seeks help from a psychologist. He keeps having a recurring dream where he is in Hawaii the day before the bombing of Pearl Harbor.
Yikes.
The dream always ends right before the moment the Japanese arrive. Even though it is a dream, it feels real. And I will leave the ending out, no spoilers, for you to watch. I
okay.
found the whole thing on YouTube.
Oh,
Yeah, so
Fun.
search The Time Element, watch it, and you'll also get to see Desi Arnaz in the beginning, and then Desi and Lucy at the end, and also a commercial for refrigerators.
wait. So, but does Desi look like Rod Serling? Like, does he have a suit and
Well, he's in a suit, but he's not in
he
the
just
movie.
introduces it?
He just introduces
Okay,
it like,
okay.
tonight we have a movie about this by a very
I
talented
wonder
writer.
if that's where Rod Serling got the idea from.
I don't know, but what's really interesting is that in my research of this, like the network didn't like that it sort of had a typical Twilight Zone ending, right?
Ah, right.
And
right,
so at the end,
A twist.
Desi Arnaz comes out and he's like, well, this is what I think happened, but I don't know. Maybe you thought different. But like they needed someone to come out and like explain what could have possibly happened because they felt like the audiences wouldn't have gotten it.
Oh, well, come on. People give some people credit.
I mean, the whole thing is that the network had absolutely no faith
Well, also, it was trailblazing for the time. I mean, people didn't do the sorts of things that we saw in the Twilight Zone.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so that's why it was just a big question mark. But the thing was, there was a huge positive response, and the studio received more letters for the time element than they had any other production.
Well, come on.
Yeah. So then CBS finally purchased The Twilight Zone as a series. The first episode premiered on October 2nd, 1959.
Yay.
And the anthology ran for 156 episodes over 5 years until it was finally canceled, sadly, in 1964.
Yeah.
However, that wasn't the end of The Twilight Zone, because when it comes to the other dimension, nothing is ever as it seems. There was a reboot in the 80s, in the early 2000s, and of course, like you mentioned before, the 2019 remake by Academy Award-winning writer Jordan Peele.
Yay!
Which is really cool because it sort of tackles social issues very much like the original Twilight Zone did, and you guys should check it out.
It's almost, I mean, it feels like if the Twilight Zone was made now,
right,
that's what it would be. Because
exactly.
This is exactly what the Twilight Zone did back in the 60s.
Yeah.
It makes sense. And some people may be like, it's woke, but it's like the Twilight Zone was kind of woke for its time.
Always making commentary. Exactly. Exactly. Totally. And Rod Serling was always doing that on purpose, but he was just putting that sci-fi twist on it.
Right.
This show has influenced how many viewed science fiction by welcoming viewers to a dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind.
Oh.
It brought aliens, evil dummies, cursed machines, and more into living rooms across the nation, becoming the favorite of many. Now, Rod helps Noah and I ring in the new year as we watch the Twilight Zone marathon into the wee hours of January 1st.
Yay!
Yes. And I also feel like we have to mention that there was a movie by Steven Spielberg, and of course, there was the installation of the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror ride in 1994 in Disney Hollywood Studios.
Can I talk about that ride for like 2 seconds?
You absolutely can.
Okay, one, Cara did say when we were teasing this season, she was like, this makes me want to go to the Tower of Terror, which was good. That's kind of, I mean, it's in the same realm. I hate that ride.
Oh.
It is terrifying.
Lives up to its name.
Right. I mean, an elevator moving forward and going not only up, but kind of like in an incline. It's just, the whole thing is just mind blowing that I was absolutely terrified on that ride. And I was like done for the rest of the day. After my aunt took me on that ride, I was like, I don't trust anything you ever tell me again.
How dare you?
But it is a great ride.
No, I love that ride because it feels, first of all, you're in a story, right? You're in a Twilight Zone episode, which is really fun. But it's like sort of better than other freefall rides. Like, I like the fact that you're sort of in a ride free falling, not outside looking at the open air.
Well, see, I had no idea that it was a droppy ride.
Oh.
I didn't know because I refused to go on those. Since I was little and to this day, anything that spins or drops, I'm out. I don't do that. I'll do roller coasters, but not that thing. I didn't know it did that.
Yeah.
So the second that those like things that it opens when you're at the top, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. You liars. Everybody lied to me.
Well, I don't mind that ride. I don't do spinny rides though, because I have a long history of vomiting on them. On them. Not after, on.
Right.
So just putting that out there.
Ew.
So that is just a small little glimpse into the history of the Twilight Zone.
Yay. And then I wanted to add a little thing. So this episode is the end of the world as you know it. And I thought it would be fun this season to maybe pair a phobia with our general episode that we're doing. But of course, there's not really a phobia for our first one. So I apologize for this, first phobia that's not really a phobia.
Poetic license.
Even though it is.
Artistic license.
So I took this from verywellmind.com because there's not much on it. And psychologists kind of put names to it, but it's not like, arachnophobia. It's not like scientifically, this is what it is. So doomsday phobias. They're too broad of a category for phobias because some people could fear plagues and other fear nuclear holocausts. So it just kind of...
Oh, sure. I gotcha. There's more specific ones.
Right. It's too broad. But doomsday phobias are surprisingly common, occurring in some form in virtually every corner of the world. Because like I said, some people might be scared of like a technology apocalypse or of aliens and all of that stuff. So it's just
Different
every corner
means to the end.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So it's just more fearing of the end in any way that it is. Surprisingly little is said about this phobia and actually has no official name, but some psychologists do call it apocalyptophobia.
Yes.
So there is kind of an unofficial name, which I thought was kind of fun.
Yeah, and also, like, I like that it's on the nose.
Right, exactly. And it seems that it's also called more generally and more commonly as apocalypse anxiety. So this is more somebody just fears the end in general, no matter what is going to happen. So either it be Y2K or, you know, a plague/virus that's taking over the world, or it just somehow there's an alien inside the center of our Earth and our Earth has been an egg the whole time. Apocalypse anxiety.
I don't like that one.
It can be difficult to differentiate the legitimate doomsday phobia from effects of mass hysteria. So that's kind of why there's no like official like apocalyptophobia type thing. So the groupthink is a documented phenomenon that occurs when members of a group begin to conform to the majority opinion without critically evaluating the information.
Cult?
Y2K.
Oh.
So something like that, where it's like, maybe if you weren't really in that cult / in that mindset, you kind of did. You were a little worried about it. It's like, well, all these people are saying this is going to happen. Like people I trust, or like, you know, people from news networks to higher up. It's like, maybe there is something weird going on, but that's the groupthink mentality.
Gotcha.
It's like the more people that kind of think it, the more credible it seems.
More power it has.
Right. There's really no way to critically differentiate. So that's my phobia little segment on there. I know it was weird. It might be a little heavy for what we normally do, but
you know, it's
a primer.
Yeah, as we were doing the research and watching these episodes, and you know, you just kind of have to take a step back and still realize that we're in a pandemic, and it's like, oh, well, it's like when your escapism isn't really escapism.
Right.
You're just escaping to a different version of something that you're going through. But anyway, we will soldier on together.
Yeah, not my end of the world, but an end of the world.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that this show came out like 60 years ago,
right,
but I'm still going to issue a spoiler alert.
Yeah, if you haven't watched it in the last 60 years and you like us covering things, go ahead and watch these before listening to the rest of this episode, because it's fun. You'll like it.
Do it.
You can find them all on Prime Video, just saying.
Yes. So let us officially take a bite of The Twilight Zone, The Midnight Sun, and Time Enough at Last.
Yay.
So Noah and I will each be taking an episode. I go first, and my episode is The Midnight Sun.
Not to be confused with our very first season of the podcast.
That's just Midnight Sun.
Yeah.
This is the Midnight Sun.
It's not Twilight Saga Midnight Sun, I promise you.
But in anything, whenever you start typing Twilight, if you're doing your research, Twilight, the series, will always come up.
Yeah, and God forbid you try to do the Twilight Zone Midnight Sun, because it's like, did you mean the Twilight Saga Midnight Sun?
I didn't. Google. Is there a vampire episode of the Twilight Zone?
Yeah, I think so.
Is
At
there?
least blood type thing.
Blood.
Yeah.
So this was written by the one and only Rod Serling, and it premiered on November 17th, 1961. So to get us started, let me give you the Serling monologue.
Ooh, fun.
The word that Mrs. Bronson is unable to put into the hot, still sodden air is doomed, because the people you've just seen have been handed a death sentence. 1 month ago, the Earth suddenly changed its elliptical orbit, and in doing so began to follow a path which gradually, moment by moment, day by day, took it closer to the sun. And all of man's little devices to stir up the air are now no longer luxuries. They happen to be pitiful and panicky keys to survival.
Whoa.
The time is 5 minutes to 12, midnight. There is no more darkness. The place is New York City, and this is the eve of the end, because even at midnight, it's high noon, the hottest day in history, and you're about to spend it in the Twilight Zone.
Oh my God. You know, whenever you read them or like actually type them out, they're a lot longer than they seem.
They're a lot longer, but I'm sorry, that's like poetry.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like he wrote great narration in every single episode.
The brilliance.
Yeah. I just love that the man's machines that like swirl the air or something like that. It's like, oh, air conditioners.
Yes. But why call it air conditioners when you can call it man's little devices to stir up the air?
Yeah, there you go. Stir up the air.
Hello.
God,
All right. So when we first open on this episode, the sun is blazing in the sky as the temperature reaches just above 110 degrees.
I'd be dead. Done.
Oh.
Immediately. No.
The vapors.
No, I mean,
The vapors?
No.
So I want to say
too
that
hot.
A good, not a good amount, but some of our research is coming from the Twilight Zone companion book, the third edition, written by Mark Scott Zickrey, and it's incredible. He has interviews in it. He has little behind the scenes stuff about all the episodes. So know that most likely when we're talking about behind the scenes stuff, it's coming from that book.
Also, we're that type of nerd to get a companion book written about something.
I'm telling you, this New Year's really led us to an obsession of the Twilight Zone.
Oh yeah.
Like we've purchased the Blu-rays, we bought the book, we watched the whole 2019 thing. Anyway. So they said that when they were filming this, they didn't like keep it boiling on set, but they kept it warm.
Oh, no.
Like total method acting. They're like, if you're going to be hot, you're going to be hot.
I would not agree to that contract. I'd be like, just spray me. Just make me look wet.
No, I would be totally into
No.
it. I would be like, yes, I want to feel the heat.
Irritated.
I want to feel the heat.
Done.
So our main character, Norma, played by Lois Nettleton, is blinded by the light as she paints. An air conditioner blows weakly in the background. She looks at the clock and it's almost 12, which we soon come to realize through the monologue is actually midnight and not noon. So a midnight sun is when there's a whole day of sunlight.
Right.
Like
which Alaska can get.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So that's where this comes from. And the sun never goes down because they're moving closer and closer.
Like, is the Earth not rotating though?
Nope. No, I don't know. That's a good question.
You know what? Because I'm like, but we only have night because the Earth rotates.
Yeah, I guess getting closer to the sun doesn't necessarily mean the sun won't be going down because it's talking
maybe
about...
it's just moving in one direction.
It's talking about its elliptical orbit has changed, meaning that the orbit is getting smaller and closer to the sun.
Oh. Okay. Yeah,
right?
Yeah. But, I mean, the thing that we cannot like nitpick some of this like science fiction stuff because it is fiction within science as well.
Said the man who just nitpicked.
I'm saying like I don't expect an actual answer.
Yeah. But I'm going with it.
Okay.
Going with it. So yeah, she's sweaty, she's hot. She goes to get herself some water, but she just has like a tiny little juice glass and then she only fills it up just like an eighth of the way just because she's just so thirsty.
Water is gold.
Water
obviously.
is gold. Electricity is gold. Everything is gold. Anything that could possibly cool you is hard to come by these days.
Yeah. Also, apparently there's a gas shortage. So
it's the end.
Yeah.
It's the end. Okay. Out of nowhere, there's a knock at the door. She opens it. There is a child of the corn standing there.
This child is weird looking.
So scary.
Yeah. That was the scariest thing in this episode is that child.
That child. Just
a
staring.
child.
No. What's worse? No.
Also, she didn't say anything.
I know. She's a little weirdo. I don't know. So Norma is delightful and she bends down to give the child a sip of water, but then her parents are like, Susie, get out of here.
Was that her name?
Yeah.
Oh.
Don't take it. And we learn that her and her parents are now becoming part of the mass exodus to get out of the city and try and find a cooler spot somewhere.
On a normal day on the weekend, you can't get out of the city in a timely manner.
No.
What makes you think that a mass exodus of New York City, you'd survive in heat like that? No.
You're going to be sitting in your car in traffic. Anyway.
Susie's dead.
Susie. Oh, R.I.P. R.I.P. Susie. Then we see our second main player here, Mrs. Bronson, played by Betty Gard, and she's talking to them. And once they leave, she tells Norma, well, now it's just us. We're the only two left in the building.
Everybody left the building, which is like, that's crazy. You even think about like from living in New York in like a building with other people to just like not have anybody there. I don't like it.
It must be so creepy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I would even think that like if we're the only two and we get along, I would like probably hang out together most of the time.
Yeah, but it's hot. So I don't think anybody gets along.
Other question. No clothes. Sorry.
Oh,
why are we wearing clothes?
Was every time. So throughout this episode, obviously it gets hotter.
Yeah.
And they're just more and more soaked. And literally in my notes, I'm like, okay, so they're more soaked and obviously just not It's hot. Why are you wearing clothes?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, F
There's no
modesty at
reason.
this point. We're just going to burn to a crisp. Why are we wearing a slip? No.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
I'm sorry. Butt cheeks out.
Yep.
That's what's happening.
Sweaty cheeks.
Mrs. Bronson continues to be the bearer of bad news and saying that they are only going to be turning the water on for an hour out of the day.
Dead. Again. I mean, I wouldn't make it past 2 seconds in this episode.
No.
Done.
And as a bit of foreshadowing, Norma says to Mrs. Bronson, I keep getting this crazy thought that none of this is happening. I'll wake up in a cool bed.
I didn't realize that.
Girl.
Just wait till the end of this episode.
Hello. Rod's like, look, I'm giving you the clues. I'm telling you right at the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the way it's
Mastermind.
delivered and what's happening, because the cool thing about the Twilight Zone is you never know when the twist is going to happen or how many twists there are.
Yeah.
So you never really know.
Yeah, I do have to say, it's funny that you said that. I feel like a lot of the time in the original version, the twists came at just the right time.
Right.
There was an episode in the newer one, the first season of the 2019 one, where I felt like they let us in on the twist way too early. And then like I was kind of like, oh, all right.
Yeah,
the
but
rest of the
to be
episode.
fair, that was like the only episode that did that.
That's true. That's true. But that is just a little whisper of what's going to happen later on. So then we have our Rod Serling monologue, which I read before. And then we join Norma again as she is food shopping. She just gets back from food shopping. She wore heels.
Stupid.
Come on.
Again.
Come
She's
on.
soaked through her dress.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the second she gets up the stairs, Mrs. Bronson comes out and there they are again. And she's like, I got some juice, Mrs. Bronson. She's like, I would kill for some juice.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously people listening to us are people and have experienced heat before. You know, whenever like maybe like a heater or like you just get like hot air in your face. For this, for the temperature, for the weather person that's announcing the weather, for them to just be like, it's hot. Like, I'm not even going to tell you the number because it's hot. Just imagine putting your face in like a blow dryer where it's just hot air. You know how you can't breathe? You know what I mean? Like, I just can't. I wouldn't even try to go food shopping. I'd be like, I don't want to. I can't deal with it.
Yeah, I think something that people need to know about you is that you run at like 1,000,000 degrees.
I am naturally, my temperature is, I sweat all the time. I'm sweating now.
Yeah.
And it's like 60 degrees
I'll
in
be
here.
in like I'll be in like layers, sweatpants, sweatshirt, t-shirt, socks, hood up, blanket on. Noah's like in shorts and he's like, it's so hot in here.
Yeah, I can't.
So this is Noah's nightmare.
I'm telling you, like, I would not make it.
Yeah.
I could not. I would just go insane.
You know, and coming back to sort of the reality of this situation to what we've sort of lived through these last couple of years, Norma talks about going to the store.
Oh, right.
And seeing the shelves empty and seeing people panicked. And I was like, we lived through something similar.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, okay, I just did that last week, Norma. Get over it.
Exactly. Oh man, I was at the grocery store last week and some of the shelves were empty again. We're going through it again. It's fine. No one panic. So they get inside.
God.
They get inside and the radio comes on and there's this radio announcer and he's like trying to maintain some sort of
being calm
and being like, yeah, we're up to 91% humidity and the forecast for tomorrow, it's just going to be more of the same. And then we kind of hear him go off. He's like, why are we even pretending? It's just going to get hotter. We're all going to die.
I agree. That was me. I am that guy.
Yeah. And then Norma tries to keep the cool because she knows Mrs. Bronson is just like ready to be off her rocker.
She's also an older woman too.
Yeah.
You know, so she has, and there are only two left in the building.
Only two in the building.
Right.
Only two, only murders in the building. So she pours her some juice and it's of all the juices.
I was so upset.
Grapefruit juice.
So we have, I'm just going to name the things that I'd be dead already by. Hot. Over, just not even a number. Hot. Apparently have to wear clothes because you have to be modest. No. And then of all the juices left in the store, grapefruit?
Grapefruit.
Okay, grapefruit juice makes you feel more thirsty.
Yes. Yes.
It's not
When she said grapefruit, I was like, excuse me?
I'd be dead.
I don't even think I would buy it.
No
but
water.
I guess beggars can't be choosers. But still.
Do you have sugar? Like, do you?
Yeah. You know what? That's actually a very good point.
Right.
I don't think I've ever had grapefruit juice.
I have.
Is it just like eating a grapefruit, or is it sweetened a little bit?
No, if you get also she did it from a can, so I'm pretty sure it was kind of maybe concentrate, and it probably tasted better than just straight grapefruit juice.
Right.
I've had both versions.
Ooh.
Both of them suck. So,
hey guys, comment below. Would you like grapefruit juice if the world was getting closer to the sun? Probably not.
I would. Yeah, no.
No. Although I wonder if there's like a delicious alcoholic drink with grapefruit juice.
Yeah.
Right?
A Paloma. Right? Doesn't that have
It's grapefruit soda.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah. Anyway.
No, I'm not a bartender.
Anyway, so just as they're going to take a sip of their juice, the electricity goes out and Mrs. Bronson loses her mind.
Yeah, she's
because she looks at all the paintings that Norma has made, and Norma, I think she's more of a landscape artist, still lifes maybe, and so her landscape is a blazing city sun.
Right, with the New York City landscape with the giant burning orb.
Yeah, exactly. And she's just like, paint something else. Yeah. Paint something cool.
And she starts beating up one of the paintings.
Yeah. I did like that the paint was still wet, and you could see on her fist was the yellow paint of the sun.
I did not notice that.
Yeah, that was I enjoyed
Nice.
that. I enjoyed that. So next scene, Norma. It's a however many hours later, Norma wakes up in a pool of sweat with an empty glass beside her. The temperature is now pushing 120 degrees, and the window is hot to the touch.
Yep.
So it turns out that there is someone in the building.
Great.
Yeah, because on that announcement, they're like, make sure to lock all your doors because the police, they're on the highway trying to, help people get out and blah, blah, blah. So it turns out Mrs. Bronson did not lock the roof door, why was the roof unlocked to begin with?
But how was somebody getting through the roof door?
Oh, fire escape, right up.
Right. But
fire escape, right up.
Okay, fine, whatever.
Right up.
Whatever.
So they run into Norma's apartment, they close the door, and there's a guy outside, and they're trying to be quiet. But then finally, Norma's like, enough of this. I'm getting my gun.
Yeah, gun all of a sudden.
Getting my gun. And she clicks it, and she's like, you hear that? I got a gun. And he's like, you're crazy, dames. It's too hot to play games.
Also rhymed.
Yeah.
Love it.
And he also says, like, come on out, baby.
Yeah. Okay,
Like
so the second he said baby, I was like, ew, gross, done.
Ew. So this character is only known as the intruder.
Right.
And he's played by Tom Reese. So Norma's like, get out of here, I got a gun. He's like, all right, you dame. So then she goes to the window to go look to see the front door to see that he leaves. Mrs. Bronson.
It's hot, okay? People don't think right when it's hot.
Listen. She's wasting juice. She's pounding paintings. Now she's opening the door. Not 2 seconds later. Even if you thought he was gone, not in 2 seconds. So she goes to unlock the door. He bursts in. This guy, let's talk about this guy. He's wearing jeans, loafers with no socks, shirtless, neckerchief, seersucker blazer.
Yeah, he has no shirt on under this blazer, but the blazer is tucked into his pants.
I can't.
So no heat is escaping around you or the back of you. You just look like an idiot.
Swamp ass. Total swamp ass.
It's like beyond swamp ass. It's just like not great.
I don't even want to think of what my thighs would be like in this situation.
Done. You would have none.
I'd have no thighs.
No,
It'd
nobody
just be
would.
burnt raw.
Nobody would.
Burnt raw. Terrible, terrible. So he comes in. He's being real gruff. He gets the gun. He drinks the water. He pours it over his head. But then he's like, oh, you're a painter. Oh, my wife was a painter. My wife died. And guess what? My baby died.
Yeah, I was so confused. Like, they flipped the script on this guy real quick. And I was just like, I don't care. You still stole from them.
Yeah.
And also, sorry, sorry.
It's the hysteria.
Right.
He's gone son crazy.
Right.
Cuckoo son crazy.
Yeah.
Right. So he leaves. Mrs. Bronson cries. I mean, it's just the whole thing. And then as she's having her breakdown, she then notices that Norma has painted a waterfall.
Yeah.
And she has this whole thing. Oh, when I was
She
younger.
describes the waterfall a lot.
And then she goes to the window. She's like, I can feel it all over me. It's all over me. And then she dies.
Yeah,
She dies.
I will say, so this episode was fine. You didn't know where it was going, but the way she died was very odd.
I put it as a fit of delusional ecstasy.
But like she kind of sat and then laid back. And I was like, that should have been a second take.
Not okay.
Do it again, Miss Bronson. Come on. But she just dies. She has this whole speech, and then she's done. Did she exhaust herself?
Yeah, her mind went to the waterfall, and then it stayed there forever. And then she dies. And then she dies. Norma goes on the floor. Then the thermometer explodes.
It's so artsy, this last, 5 minutes of the episode.
I love it. And then all the paintings start melting.
Yeah.
And I read that the way they did that was that they painted wax over the paintings.
Oh.
And then they put them on hot plates, and then it all melted like that.
Okay.
And then just as Norma releases a final blood-curdling scream, we flash to another thermometer at its lowest point.
Yeah.
Mrs. Bronson stuffed newspapers to block the draft coming from the window. Norma has had a fever. She was so ill. There's a doctor there sharing that the medicine is pretty much gone now, and he's actually trying to get to a warmer climate.
It turns out it was all a lie.
In 1, 2, 3 weeks at most, there won't be any more sun, and they will all freeze because it was all a fever dream.
Ugh.
And they're actually moving further away from the sun.
Okay. I mean, yes, and you were there, and you were there, and you were there.
And Norma's like, isn't it wonderful to have darkness, coolness? And Mrs. Bronson's like, yes, my dear.
You crazy bitch.
Wonderful. Yikes.
Yeah. I mean, it was a cool twist for sure. I give this twist, maybe like a 6 out of 10.
No, it's 6 duties out of 10 duties.
Okay, I give it
Woody
6
woo-doo.
duties out of 10.
No, don't say it like that. We do.
Out of 10s. Yeah, it's we do.
We do.
I was like, duties, okay.
Doo-doo.
So I have a question for you, though.
Yeah.
Would you rather the Earth freeze or burn?
I think I would rather the Earth freeze.
Yeah, I am too. Mostly because you can make fires. Food doesn't, completely disintegrate. And also, I would rather just be numb at the end of it all than feeling everything burst into flames.
Yeah, I just picture myself just in piles of blankets, whereas I feel like I would literally cook.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to cook.
Yeah.
I want to be like a lobster when you put them in the freezer before you boil them. Like you don't know what's going on.
Rude.
Oh, I don't eat lobster.
No, I
I'm
know.
just saying.
It's sad
It's terrible.
lobster.
It's terrible. I know. This is what we do.
Yeah.
This is what we do. So yeah, I think I would rather move further away from the sun.
Yeah, this episode was very much like a Wizard of Oz situation where it was just like, oh, it wasn't really what it was.
Yeah.
And she was just dreaming.
But I also do feel like it kind of is the phobia that you mentioned, right? Because it's the end of the world, but it's just one way or the other way.
Either way, people are scared.
Yeah.
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 Ugh.
Oh, so good.
Good job.
Thanks. Your turn, sir.
All right. So on to my pick for End of the World as we know it. And I had to pick one of my personal favorites of all time, but also, I mean, this episode is a lot of people's favorites, but I couldn't not talk about this episode. Time Enough at Last. Season 1, episode 8. In the very first season, it always blows my mind that this was in the first season.
Some of the best episodes are in the first season.
Yeah, absolutely. It first premiered in November 20th, 1959. So right before the 60s. This was still in the 50s. And just like Derek did, I have to do Rod Serling's little opening monologue. I'm not going to do the voice because I can't.
Well, I don't even come close to it. Right. It's just fun.
No. Witness Mr. Henry Bemis, a charter member in the Fraternity of Dreamers, a bookish little man whose passion is the printed page, but who is conspired against by a bank president and a wife in a world full of tongue cluckers and the unrelenting hand of a clock. But in just a moment, Mr. Bemis will enter a world without bank presidents or wives or clocks or anything else. He'll have a world all to himself without anyone. And that's the end of it. There's no in the Twilight Zone or at the Twilight Zone or whatever. Weird opening for the
Serling's keeping us on our toes.
Right. So this is one of my favorite ones, and I'll kind of say why, and it's probably one of the most depressing things ever written for TV. But it's gonna be it's kind of difficult to come up with a single episode that encapsulates kind of what the Twilight Zone is or shows everything that it can do. But I would say that this one would probably come up on the short list. Like if you had to pick 5, this would definitely probably be
Yeah,
be
I
one.
think this is in a lot of people's top 10 favorites.
Right. So this, unlike a lot of episodes, was actually based off of a short story written by somebody else. But Rod Serling kind of takes the general conceit of it and puts his own little twisty spins on them. But the original short story by the same name was by Lynn Venable. So it's kind of cool to know that they're written by somebody else. And he's like, I'm going to take that and just do something a little fun with it.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised in doing my research and seeing that these were based on stories. And you can actually see in the credits of each episode, it says that it was based on a story. It kind of makes you want to dig back and see what the original stories were.
Agreed. And in this one, we meet lovable Henry Bemis, played by Burgess Meredith. He's an avid bookworm who loves to spend literally any time he can reading. I get it. I can relate to this. Unfortunately, he has a habit of reading on the job, and while reading David Copperfield during his work as a bank teller, he shortchanges a customer. Like literally, he's like had to count it to her a couple times, and she's like, "Guy, you still owe me $1." But it's like, learn the time and place.
Yeah, I love books myself. I mean, I literally listen to an audiobook on the way to work where I work with libraries and talk about books quite a lot.
You also read books during the day for part of your job.
Right. But it's like that is specified time for that. When I'm working on something else, I know not to be reading a book.
Right. Also, why not just like count the $25 apparently in ones or coins and then start reading? Like, she just needed 25.
He just can't help it. He just got his little book in his lap and he's just got to read. Just loves David Copperfield. Yeah. What's the name? He's just like obsessed with all of the Murdstone. Isn't that a villainous name? Murdstone.
Yeah, he's so obsessed with David Copperfield because he's reading it currently, and he just has to like get the information out that he's absorbing. I kind of get it. I do it to Derek all the time. I'm like, this comic I read.
the Noah will read 10 pages of a book and then tell me about it for 20 minutes.
I have a lot to say.
Noah asks me, "Oh, Derek, how's your book?" And I'll be like, "It's really good," or "It's like it's really sad." And I'll be like, "How's your book?" He's like, he just remembers every single detail.
Yeah, I like to think so. But then when I get a microphone in front of me, I'm like, I don't know what this meant. So I did want to point out, though, does the actor at all to you look familiar? Like, can you place him in anything?
I just know that he's incredibly famous.
Yes. So he's an Oscar-nominated actor.
Yeah. I mean, Rocky?
Okay, so I'll name the three. He's played 3 iconic characters in movie history or in TV history as well. So the first one is George Milton of Mice and Men, which of Mice and Men is actually mentioned in this episode.
Ooh, I love that.
Pretty cool. He played the Penguin in the television Batman series.
Wait.
From 1966 to 1968.
Is that the Adam West one?
Yes, he was the Penguin.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That's why I was like, the whole time I was watching this more like now as an adult, I was like, why does he look so familiar? He has a fake mustache in this episode. He has fake glasses.
Those glasses.
Right, but I'm just like, why does he look so familiar? That's why he looks familiar. Also, he plays Mickey, Rocky's trainer.
Get in there.
In the first 3 Rocky movies.
Yeah.
So he's been around. He also voiced for video games too. Like, I mean,
I kind of wonder, like, we've been watching the 2019 one, pretty much there's like a well-known actor in almost every episode. And I wonder, like, if in the 50s and 60s when you were watching the old Twilight Zone, you're going, "Oh, it's Burgess Meredith. Burgess Meredith is in this one." Like, what famous actor is going to pop up in this one?
Yeah. I agree. I mean, did you watch the Of Mice and Men that he's in?
No.
Oh my God, it's so long.
Come on,
just want to say.
It's just like sad.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. Did you read the book?
No.
Oh, you're not missing anything. It's very
I don't think
depressing.
I can handle it. I can handle it.
Anyway, so his boss, the president of banks, I'm just going to call
all
him.
the banks.
Yeah, all the banks. Because it's like the bank president. I'm like, okay.
Not a manager.
Yeah, he's a president of banks.
Serious.
Understandably does not like that he can't stop reading while he's on the job. He's ripped by the president of banks that he's a reader and not a good employee, which, I mean, there's worse insults. Just going to say. He tells the president that his wife won't let him read. And even though the president kind of loves hearing this, that his wife does that, it's still awful. I'm just like, you're an asshole, one, Mr. Bank, president of banks. And your wife seems like an asshole.
Yeah. I don't even like, he says to him, make it quick and get back to your cage.
Yeah.
Like, that's how he sees his employees.
Yeah.
He's just evil.
He also like tried to make him like seem weird of like he was trying to call. So he reads everything. And then this president of banks was naming all the stuff that he reads. And there was an election and people had, campaign buttons.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, you were staring at that girl's chest for a while. And he was like, I was reading the button. He was like, yeah, I'm sure. It's like, you get out of here.
Yeah, they even say that she flipped out and she thought that he was staring at it too.
And it's like sad because it's like he obviously can't help himself.
Yeah, he's very misunderstood.
Yeah.
Okay, and why is everybody so mean to him?
Because it's easy.
Oh.
That's why.
Well, okay. I just feel like I am very much a Bemis, and so I think that's why this episode just makes me so sad.
Yeah. Well, at home, it doesn't get any better.
No.
He's sitting reading a newspaper and his wife snatches it from him. She's awful. Everybody so far that we've met that have come in contact with Bemis is awful. Before they can leave to go out, she searches him and takes his poetry book, but then asks him oddly to read this poetry book.
A glimmer of hope, perhaps?
Right. And he's so excited and he says, it's a book of poetry, of modern poetry, and he's naming all these poets, and he's so excited that his wife is letting him do this. And then he opens it, and she's ruined it. She's just...
Yeah, she took a wax pencil to every single page. Who has the time?
And then also, not even that, she takes it from him and then rips it up.
Your boy is at work, working all day, and you're sitting at home ruining his books?
Well, he also, and one of the things that always makes me sad every time I watch this is he's like, why, Helen? Why do you do these things? I'm like, what? I kept thinking in my head every time I watch this and like thinking back when I first saw this, where's the twist? Please tell me that he I don't know, he gets superpowers or something and he just can get back at all these people. I'm like, because so far I'm not understanding what this is about.
It's the first 10 minutes of this episode is just watching him get bullied in different places.
She even mentions because she says a husband, and he was like, oh, how many husbands do you have? He's charming. He's sweet. Like he reads a lot. So he's very grammatically correct.
Grammarly correct.
Yeah. And he's like, how many husbands do you have? And she's like, sadly, only one. I'm like,
rude. It's kind of like one of these things. Is like
nobody's keeping you here.
Right. And thinking of the marriage of the Beamises, it's like, what brought them together?
I don't know. She looked older than him.
Yeah.
And age is fine. And people can be with people however they want. I'm just not seeing the appeal, Mr. Henry.
I don't get it.
Henry and Helen. Maybe that's why.
The H's.
H-E.
H and HB.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's why. Anyway, so he can't read at home and he can't read at work. So that sucks. The next day at work, Bemis locks himself in the bank vault during his lunch hour just so he can read. That's all he wants to do. He was like, okay, everybody hates that I read. I'm just going to take my newspaper, go into the bank vault and read. As he reads the newspaper headlines that declares H-bomb capable of total destruction, the vault is suddenly rocked by a massive explosion, which results in Bemis being knocked unconscious.
Yeah.
And I did like in the behind the scenes thing for this one, they actually built 2 sets for the bank. And whenever everything rocks, it's actually rocking because they built the entire set on springs and the camera was on a spring.
Nice.
So whenever it shook, Bemis shook and the camera shook.
Extra effect, baby.
Right. In this character, so he also has these big glasses, ridiculous glasses. They kind of look like the gag glasses that you would get at a party store. He has 2 pairs of glasses, the actor, for this episode. The close-ups, those are the bottle clamp.
Like the Coke bottle.
Right, exactly. But the ones where it's him kind of acting, it's window glass. And they kind of just bent it to make it look like it's the same, but that way he can see when he's acting.
Sure.
Because the other ones, that he can't. There's no way he can see.
Because he's stepping on some precarious sets.
Yeah, they literally make a desolate, destroyed set. And it's like, have fun. You can't see. This Academy Award winning actor.
Don't die, Burgess.
So it turns out that there was a 5-second foreshadowing from that newspaper because the H-bomb did go off and it destroyed everything, at least what we're shown and told.
Yes.
I did want to point that out.
Yeah, I sort of, yeah, he's very, obviously everything's destroyed and all hope is lost, but it's like, did it destroy the entire world?
I mean, how would he even know? Because,
Right.
like, regardless of the area that was affected, you couldn't call out.
Yeah, it's the 50s.
You'd also be technically dead. Like, he comes out of the vault, which, one, the vault was not sealed shut because, I mean, lucky.
We're very lucky to not get locked in
Right. But immediate, like, radiation poisoning. He'd be dead.
there.
Like, he couldn't eat any food. He'd be
Yeah.
immediately dead.
It was like hilarious when he goes upstairs in the bank. I'm like, oh, come on. Where are the bodies? Where are the bodies?
Yeah, that was the one I was just like, okay, so no bodies.
But then there is a body.
Yeah, there's one, and you
One.
just see it's like the bank president,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. But that's it. But no, he walks around this town. No bodies anywhere.
No.
Nothing.
No, not even a bird in the sky.
No, it's just nothing. He does look for his wife. Even though she's awful and he doesn't have to, it is really sweet that he goes back to his house to look for his wife. And I'm like, what were you going to do if she was alive? Like,
Bye.
come on, let's survive the end of the world together.
Maybe we'll make it through this.
No.
We didn't make it through dinner the other night, but maybe we'll make it through
We
this.
didn't make it through our marriage, but we'll make
The
it
end of the
through
world?
apocalypse.
We got it.
Right. So he does what he should do and he finds supplies. But because he's the last person that we see and that he knows of, apparently, let's say in New York, he has all the food he needs. He has a lifetime of food. He's like, okay, I don't need to fight for food. It's quite the opposite from your episode that you covered.
Yeah, totally.
He's just alone.
Yeah.
Everything's destroyed. After some time, Bemis realizes that he's now all alone on a ruined Earth with food to last him forever. And he's driven into the depths of despair and is about to shoot himself.
The loneliness.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to say real quick, it's been like 3 days.
Has it even? It was like an hour and a half.
Right. I
Dude.
know that some time probably could have passed because he's in a different setting and stuff like that.
True.
But it's like, there was no indication that time passed. So it was like, dude, has it been like 3 hours? Like, I don't.
He's given up.
Right.
Done.
He's just done.
Done.
In my research, I was trying to find maybe, some fun facts and stuff like that. This episode, I will say, has like so many people have written about this episode. So there's not much I think that I can add that has not already been written a million times over. But however, one thing did stand out to me this time, watching it as more of a mature adult that I like to think that I am, this suicide scene. I feel like it was so jarring from what we know him as a character, kind of what was happening. It's like, from what we know, humanity killed itself and he's the last one. But then to have this character driven to that extent to kill himself, I'm just like, yee.
It's just this episode. I feel like I blocked out so much of this episode. Like I watched it once when I was a kid, and I think I sort of avoided it until we watched it for this episode because it's so depressing.
Yeah.
It's so depressing. I completely forgot that he even goes home and we have that scene with his horrible wife. It's just
he tries the phones, he tries all that. Yeah, it just doesn't work. And it's, I feel like, especially, like, you have to remember this was in the 50s. And to show somebody like Rod Serling literally had a character put a gun to their head on a CBS show.
Guns in both our episodes.
That's
by
true.
the way.
This episode takes us kind of at his lowest point, then brings us to the highest high to the lowest gloom again. It's like Rod Serling really wrote this
Roller coaster.
Yeah, it's like the last 5 minutes are just up and down, up and down, up and down. So he eventually finds a library.
Yay!
A bookworm finds a library. Perfect. And surprisingly, none of the books are disintegrated.
The power
They're all fine.
of books.
The power of libraries, guys. So he happily sorts the books into the order he wants to read them. January, February, then the next year and everything.
The year after that.
He's so excited. Yeah. And I love this organization. It's like, I kind of have that on my nightstand currently of the next few months of books.
This TBR pile, basically.
Right. As he bends down to pick up the first book, however, he stumbles and his glasses fall off his face and shatter. Being blind without him, Bemis goes into shock, crying, "That's not fair. That's not fair at all. There was time now. There was all the time I needed. That's not fair." Yeah.
Why?
How?
Why? Why?
I thought I thought the twist was the bomb. You know what I mean? It's like, and of course the person that was able to read. It's like, no, the twist is it doesn't matter.
He doesn't get to read.
He doesn't even have, like, he has so much time. I mean, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, what is the moral of the story? Is the moral of the story like, no matter what, you won't get to do what you want sort of thing? Even when there's finally time, you won't get to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I kept trying to think about that when we were watching it. It was like, that's kind of why I alluded to that whole, like, he's a lover of, like, intellect and art and everything. And then everybody else we've seen in this show so far doesn't like it, doesn't want him to do it. And then the world kind of killed itself because of it. And of course, the last lover of that, the beauty and everything, he was the last one alive. But even the world had to take that away from him. And the last monologue for Rod Serling, and this is the last narration, because he does do one midway through.
Yeah, like describing what he's going through.
Right, when he's walking around the city, and he does have one at the very end, and he says, "The best laid plans of mice and men, and Henry Bemis, the small man in the glasses who wanted nothing but time. Henry Bemis, now just a part of a smashed landscape, just a piece of rubble, just a fragment of what man was deeded to himself. Mr. Henry Bemis, in the Twilight Zone." So we get the in the Twilight Zone at the very end of the episode, which I think is very interesting, but also I think that's what it is. I mean, a fragment of what man was deeded to himself. Man did it to himself, and he kind of did it to himself as well. He was obsessed with reading, and even when he should be more concerned with surviving, he kind of did it to himself again. I don't know why, but it's just so sad.
Yeah, I mean, he found food first. He found a couch, too. I mean, he took some other things as priorities.
I know.
I mean, it's...
I'm sorry, guys. I know that wasn't as much fun as the first one, but...
it's such a good example of the Twilight Zone.
Right.
You know, and how you're kind of led on this journey and you think one thing is going to happen and then there's a final punch. You know, and I think the thing about the Twilight Zone is even the people that we see as our hero of the story, they are not immune to the effects of being in the Twilight Zone.
No, not at all. And you never know what's going to happen. Yeah. I mean, fate is a bitch and it loves weepy tears. And that's what the Twilight Zone does to you.
This is one that, again, like I said, I try to avoid just because it's so depressing.
I think why it's one of my favorites is because it's so, one, trailblazing for the time. I mean, I love Lucy, and I've watched that series over and over again. Not once remotely did it come to something like this, and but like that intense. Like, I know it wouldn't, but like even the stuff they cover. But it's like that's the type of show that was on at the time. But to have the Twilight Zone come in here and then have this type of drama, I mean,
sure,
it's insane. Some networks wouldn't even allow that.
Mostly, I mean, at the time when, like, especially like when Patterns came out and stuff like that. It was mostly like westerns and housewife comedies and things like that. So anything that Rod was doing even earlier before the Twilight Zone was seen as groundbreaking because he wasn't afraid to do what wasn't out there. Yeah,
the human condition. He was really taking a sci-fi and supernatural look at humans and everything that they were going to, the worst and best parts of them, and then just putting his little Roddy spin on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think he used the gun?
I mean, I think there's a piece of me that hopes that he
lost it.
No, tries.
Can't find it.
He can't see it. Can't see it. There's a piece of me that hopes that, like, again, but what Henry has shown us is that he gives up a little easily. So what I want for him is to go out and try and fashion some glasses, maybe find some magnifying glasses or something for himself. But I'm worried that he just automatically goes into despair and
isn't there like, I mean, people usually with glasses are either near or farsighted. So the fact that he can't see anything at all with the glasses makes me feel like he has some, like, on top of everything else, like a rare condition where he, like, literally cannot see.
I do think that that's painted by the crazy effect.
Insanity of the glasses.
Yeah, the glasses, the magnifying effect they have on his eyes. You know, we're supposed to believe that he's
a big
completely
magnifying glass.
Dependent on them.
Is there large print? Did that survive?
I don't know. Was there? Hopefully. Fingers? Yeah. So, definitely a lot to think about. But maybe a little more levity with the special segment?
Maybe.
I don't
think
special
so,
segment. New special
season.
Segment alert. It was Earth all along.
Oh.
So, like, that's like sort of like
I like how you said it is It was Earth all
Yeah,
along.
the special segment is it was Earth all along. So that's always something that kind of pops up in some of the Twilight Zone episodes is where they think they're somewhere else, but it was Earth all along. And so what I'm doing here is that I'm sort of taking an aspect of one or two of the episodes or the overall theme and finding a real life example of something that has to do with it.
Oh, so the real Twilight Zone.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. So as we said, our episode is the end of the world as we know it. And what better way to talk about it was Earth all along than the world's largest doomsday community?
Oh, okay.
Yes. So let us travel to Vivos X Point in South Dakota. So this is right now. There's this place called Vivos X Point in South Dakota.
It's current?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's happening right now.
Oh.
So it used to be the Black Hills Ordnance Depot, which was built by the U.S. military around World War II, and they kept munitions there. And these underground bunkers were built far enough apart from each other so that if one of them exploded, it wouldn't set off a chain reaction.
Okay.
Right? So right now, 8 to 10 families live there full time, but many people have paid the $35,000 price point for the what if doomsday situation. So to apply to be a part of the community, they want to make sure that you are mentally stable and may or may not have a special skill that can add to the survival of the group if doomsday comes.
Wait. They don't want you to survive or do want you to survive?
No, they want you to survive.
I thought
they
you
want to make sure that you have special skills.
I thought you said hope they make sure you don't have a special skill to ensure the group survives.
No, they make sure you're mentally stable.
Right.
And they also ask if you have any sort of special skills.
Yeah, no, I thought it was the opposite. And I was like, well, they really suck at getting people in there.
Do you want the end of the world or not?
Right.
So on the website, some of the skills include, but of course not limited to, a physician, a seamstress, a veterinarian, plumber, lawyer, accountant, or of course, martial artist. Yeah, so you can check as many as apply.
I'm a martial artist. I am pottery making veterinarian. That's
bam.
Fun.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Yeah.
So there are 575 underground bunkers.
Whoa.
And it's weird. They're not like underground. They're like above ground, but ground goes over them. So it's not like you walk in and then go down. Yeah, it's like, it's a kind of a misnomer, but I don't want to get into it. So 60 bunkers are right now purchased. And according to the website, each bunker is 80 feet by 26.5 feet, capable of comfortably accommodating up to 24 people with a supply of food, water, fuel, and hygienic supplies for a year or more.
Okay, they say comfortably. That doesn't sound comfortably.
A lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
Right now it's like mainly like retired people or like families of 4.
Yeah, I mean,
one.
Families of 4?
Yeah, there's people with kids.
No.
Yeah. So there are plans to really expand the community with a gym, pool, restaurant, and more. The bunkers themselves are located fairly equidistant from the east and west coasts. There's actually a map on the website where Vivos X Point is plotted out, surrounded by the chaos of the United States, including predicted submersion zones, known nuclear targets, high crime anarchy zones, and the Yellowstone blast zone, which of course, none are near X Point.
Oh. Well, okay. But like I could look it up and be like, okay, well, guys, they say we can't destroy this place with a nuclear bomb. That's where it's going to hit.
Well, only a villain would think that way, so good to know.
I like a complicated character. I can't believe there's families there.
Yeah.
I would hate my parents.
Yeah. And
all of my friends are 70 plus years old.
And it's not like you're just sitting out, hanging around. I mean, they're far off from like a lot of civilization. So you have to make sure your generator's up and running. You have to make sure you have enough fuel. You have to make sure that the solar panels are okay.
Guys, you don't need to do that right now.
I mean, if you're retired...
Yeah, that's
fine. And it costs $35,000. I mean, I'm sure it's fine, but really...
Wait, 35,000?
$35,000 for one of the bunkers. But that's not including like people like make kitchens and rooms and stuff like that. This is literally, it's literally
like a stone slab.
It's a big giant shell that's 80 feet by 26.5 feet.
Ew, no. That's a lot of money for that.
Yeah. But it's a place to live that could possibly be safe if the end of the world comes.
Viva Doomsday.
Ba-da-ba-ba.
Okay, well, that was... First, see, guys, this season's a lot different than our other ones. Prepare.
Not uplifting at all.
It is. They like us.
We do.
All right. Until next week. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to A Bite Of, artwork and editing by our own Noah. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at A Bite Of Pod and on Facebook at A Bite Of. If you have questions, recommendations, or just want to say hi, you can email us at abiteofpod@gmail.com. You can find us on all podcast platforms. Please be sure to rate and review to spread the word. Hope you join us next time on A Bite Of. Bye.